Hey, welcome back to another Patreon lesson. This is going to actually be part two of the previous video I did that was talking about how I make samples. So if you haven't watched it, maybe go back and watch the first video before you jump into this one. Just to kind of recap, the first one was basically me laying out the tracking portion as far as setup, making decisions about, instruments and mics and things like that, and then kind of getting everything dialed in the tracking portion. And so this is going to be the back end in terms of editing and mixing. And so I'm going to try to concisely just show you basically how I go about the back end process, which is probably the less understood aspect of making samples, although it's still pretty simple and straightforward. I'm just going to show the way I've found to do it. There may be more efficient ways or better ways. I'm just going to show you what I've found to be the best for me currently. So I've actually got the session pulled up here that I tracked everything in. And so I'm going to switch the screen so you can see that now. And then we'll go ahead and jump in. So like I said, this is the session that I recorded everything in. And as you can see, there's lots of files. I've got it zoomed out pretty far. But of course, I'll zoom in closer when I start talking about something. But I just wanted to kind of show you how I lay it out. It's not super concise or clear probably to you right now of why I have all these tracks, but basically how I see it is I set up a set of tracks for each kit or each sound design for whatever I'm going for. So like these 1 through 12 is one kit, and then the 13 through 24 is another kit, and then again 25 through 36. So I basically just do that so that I can, do processing and mixing and things like that per the sound of the drum of that particular kit. You know what I mean? So I'm not just kind of generally doing like EQ or compression over the course of two kits that sound completely different. So hopefully that makes sense. That's just the way I've found I prefer to lay it out. I could probably be a little more organized with the way I do it instead of just naming them all the same thing. But at the end of the day, I know what they are, so that's kind of all that matters. So I figured I would just kind of show the examples of my editing and mixing process using this top one, which was kind of, I guess you could consider it like the flagship sound of this pack, if that's makes any sense. This is kind of the brighter, more modern gated sound. It was my Gretsch kit that I showed actually in the setup video. So, okay, so to start talking about the first steps. So obviously at this point I tracked everything. If I really zoom in here, from here at the beginning to here, or actually technically here where my cursor is, those are the actual one-shot recordings. So as you can see, there's multiple, basically I started with the snare, and you can tell it's a snare just because the biggest transient here is on the snare track, and you can see in the kicks there's nothing or very little. So you can see, I tracked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just harder snare hits for this first snare sound. So I don't have a set amount that I do. I just kind of go until I feel like I have enough to choose from. And then the ones that are unmuted, which are the ones that are blue, are basically is the hit that I chose. So basically I would go through and pick my favorite. But let me get back to that in a second. That's kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. I want to talk about something else first. But just to explain what all this is, those are all the actual one-shot recordings. What I actually do first thing, and then at that point, once I've kind of made sure everything's good to go, I just take the folder and I zip it up, so when I'm sending them out to people, it's not this huge file, and I'll zip them up, name them, put a note in there, I'll generally just say, hey, thanks for buying this, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of the goal with this pack, blah, blah, blah. That's just how I do it. And put it in a Dropbox folder, and then it's ready to go. So I think that's the whole process. I hope all that made sense. It's pretty straightforward, but it definitely is a process definitely take some time, and you'll, if you're doing it, you'll learn the way that works best for you. I just thought it'd be beneficial to show my workflow for it. As of now, that could change at some point, but this is kind of the way that's worked best for me most recently. As usual, if you got any questions, let me know. Making samples is, like I've said already, it's a process, but it is fun, and it's just nice because, like, I use them at the end of the day. It's like, it's nice when people buy them, and it helps me make a little money to pay the bills and stuff. But it's also like, I just go to them, in my own productions or whatever, instead of having to, dig through like a bunch of, packs that I would have from other people, which I don't really have many from other people. I can just go into my own sounds, and then when I am using samples, it's still more unique to me because they're actually my sounds rather than grabbing something that everybody else has. So that's another benefit, is like, even if you don't want to get into this to sell them or whatever, if you're not ready or don't feel like, they're adequate or whatever, it's still just nice to like have some of your own sounds to dig in. Like, if I'm songwriting sometimes and I don't want to set up a kit, I'll just pull in my own samples of some kind and just kind of program something in, and it's just more familiar territory and the types of sounds that I like. So it's beneficial on a lot of fronts. And yeah, so again, any questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you next time.